So when you're starting over, for example, I'm 58, I'm starting over completely after losing everybody and everything in my life over the last 7.5 years. Where do you even start? It's a question I get often. And I think, we need to step back a bit. First of all, when we talk about starting over or reinventing or transitioning into a next act, it always feels like this huge, monumental, epic occasion, like we're going to be completely different human being after the fact. And that's just not true. But I think the place we really need to start that's often overlooked because we're like, I have to start over, I have to start over, is we need to take a step back and we need to really, take stock of where we are right now and draw ourselves a baseline of sorts, get ourselves like take stock of where we are and what we have to work with. Like, what are the raw materials that we have to work with when we're starting over? One of the biggest challenges I started really looking at this about 2 years ago. So 5 years after my, world really turned upside down, I became a widow. I'm child-free by choice, lost all of my finances, lost my only sibling, have no family left. So I really found myself starting over, solo aging, and having to build a completely new life, right, from the ground up. And one of the great realizations I had was at the time I was 56 and I was like, okay, you you are flying solo now. You get to build a new life. Go do it. And I was like, I don't even know who I am. I don't even know what I want. How can I be 56 years old and not know who I am? And my realization was I really hadn't stopped to, look at myself and reflect on myself and see myself for where I am right now, because, life is always happening. And so what I did is I came up with a system. Now, you have to understand, I'm a practical person. I do read. I love all the self-help books. I read them. I love, advice we get on TikTok of reinvention and starting over. I consume that stuff. I eat it up. I do. But I'm also often left with like, what do I do with this information? Right? What do I do? And so I'm a very practical gal, just to give you some context. And so what I did one day, this is like the literal thing that happened, is I was sitting on my, sitting there on my laptop and I opened my Google Drive and I started a Google Doc that I called the Big Book of Me. That's what it was called. And I just started like, who am I? Who am I? And I just started listing everything about myself, everything I know how to do, everything I'm good at, you know. And it was a little weird at first, but my list went on and on and on. And it, of course, it started with the big obvious things like, what do I know how to do? Oh, I have a master's degree in international business. I have a master's in applied linguistics. I've had this job. I've had that job. And I really started with kind of official skills and official degrees and official, assets kind of thing. But I'm like, that's not enough. That's not enough. So I just started everything about myself. Okay, I'm a widow. I love dachshunds. My first dog was a Yorkshire Terrier. I speak French. I'm really good at making this particular turkey sandwich. I love mid-century modern art. I'm a really good like community organizer. I literally just went on and on with like ridiculous detail, big picture, little picture, odd stuff. And then as I kept doing this, I'm also like, oh gosh, it just really sparked my memory. And so I started, including on my list experiences I've had, like cool things I've done on travels or unusual things that have happened. And I really just started kind of like a memoir or a biography, except it was just a bulleted list of every random thing I could think of about myself. And then I started, tying in like, what would I love to be able to do? What are my aspirations? Like even big picture stuff, little picture stuff, and on and on. This document went on and on. And the more I did it, the more that just came up, like almost I couldn't type fast enough. I couldn't type fast enough. And so I just kept adding to this list and adding to this list. And I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I didn't know where else to start. Like, I need to start over. I need to make a plan. Where, how, right? I needed a practical application. So I started doing these inventories and it got really long. The big book of me got really, really long. And then one day I'm like, what if? What if I take this inventory and I put it into ChatGPT? And I did. So I went to ChatGPT and I was like, hey, ChatGPT, I just made this inventory of myself. What do you think? What do you think? What do you see? What's here? Like, what can you tell me? So I put this list in. And again, it was not organized in any fashion or anything like that. And what was interesting is it came back that, because I love how AI organizes things, it's like you've really basically documented 7 areas of your life. Here are patterns that we see about you. And it was really fascinating looking at how ChatGPT took all the pieces of me and organized it. And I'll talk in a minute about like what those areas were and patterns that it saw. But then I was intrigued. I'm like, okay, okay, let's play with AI and say like, okay, AI, ChatGPT, tell me. And I said, if I start mashing up, and that's the term I used, mashing up different things from my life, different interests, different skills with different aspirations, what could that mean? What could that look like? What Give me some ideas here that I have not thought of myself or would, not be able to come up with on my own. And it did. And it did. And some of them were really fascinating. Some of them were really out there, but some of them were like, huh, that's interesting. I never thought of that. I never thought of that. The whole point of this exercise became I needed to take stock of myself again. I needed to kind of reintroduce to myself. And some of the realizations were really kind of hard to hear, like things that I had loved doing that I hadn't done for so long. I mean, let's face it, life happens. Life, you get involved in life and, you have priorities and not everything gets to be a priority, right? So there were things that I hadn't done in a long time. Like one thing ChatGPT pointed out was like, you're very adventurous, but it seems you haven't been adventurous lately. And I was like, yeah, that's really true. I haven't had time, haven't thought of it. And I miss being adventurous. And so it came up with a few of these things. But the point was what it did doing this exercise just kind of grounded me in myself again, for lack of a better term. It's like I saw myself in black and white. I saw myself organized in different areas. And by the way, what ChatGPT came back was it said, you've really inventoried like official skills, like things you've studied, certificates, things you've like deliberately learned, like gotten a degree and that type of thing. Unofficial skills was another area, including, things you've just learned along the way, learned on the job, those things that you don't, you can't put it on your resume like I have a degree in this, but you've definitely learned it and you're an expert in it. It inventoried all the things I love to do in the sense of like hobbies, those things that you choose to spend your spare time on, or those things you do that you lose track of time, that type of thing. One of the areas was, unique experiences that I've had, that I had like long forgotten about. Another area was like hard lessons learned, and not even hard lessons learned, not all hard lessons, but good, life lessons, all of those things. And another area was aspirations. Like if you could do anything, if you couldn't fail, if you had the money, if there were no constraints, like what would you do kind of thing. And those were the areas that it inventoried. And while it didn't give me like a, 5-year plan, do this, do this, do this, it did give me a really great starting point. It just, like I said, it kind of brought me back to myself, reminded me in black and white of who I am now, what I have to work with. And it gave me a point to start with, what do my priorities need to be when starting over? And another thing I realized about myself in doing this exercise is one thing that came up a lot was in terms of aspirations, were how I described a lot of things were how I wanted to feel, not necessarily a specific, like some people might say, I want to go to Italy for 1 month, right? Mine were more feelings, like I want to feel adventurous again. I want to feel the thrill of, being in a new environment, things like that. And so for me, it was more about feelings, but it gave me a starting point and it really helped me clearly see, okay, uh, top priority for me, for example, needs to be finances, stabling my finances, as that has been a great upheaval. And I'm 58. I've got to get that sorted fast, right? If I want any type of peace of mind in the future. So priority number one. And by day, I'm an online business coach. I have an online business, which I absolutely love the freedom and flexibility of it. I teach women over 50 how to start online businesses. I started this online business after I was laid off in 2017, which was like the first domino in my life that fell. So I'm like, okay, I have a business, so I have that asset. What do I need to do in that business now to increase income, to start, stabilizing my finances more, savings, that type of thing. So priority there, right? So that's priority. But I also saw other areas, like I can't just stop my life and wait until this one thing is done or ready at a certain level, like that I have this much money, right? I'm very certain from lessons learned, having lost my husband, we had been together 29 years, so more than half my life, losing my only sibling, basically finding myself, at one point, family, husband thing to no family, right? It's a shock to the system. But what it helped me realize was I can't stop life while you're waiting for the end point over here. So I want to keep doing things that feel good to me now while I'm prioritizing money. I don't want to stop my life here. So what can that look like? And by doing this exercise, I really learned several things, but one of the big things is don't stop life while you are waiting for the one big thing. And when you're starting over, reinventing, whatever you want to call it, I think it's really important to look at micro activities, micro exercises, micro decisions, because A, it keeps you moving forward. B, whatever we do when we're starting over, changing, building something new, growth, it's going to be entirely experimental, right? Certainty never exists. It just doesn't exist in the universe. And so I think we can get caught up like, what if I make the wrong decision? And so then we wind up making no decision. So by going very micro, I've been able to just start building new activities in my life, making smaller decisions. And that in turn is helping me kind of build that muscle that I can make bigger decisions. But kind of back to the point of this video, if you find yourself in a place that you're starting over or you want to change something big in your life or reinvent, or, there's been a massive transition, take a step back and take a look at yourself, inventory yourself, and get a baseline, reacquaint yourself with who you are now, what you've experienced, what you have going for you, what tools, what skills, what interest, whatever, because that is going to be the baseline from which you can say, I wonder if this could be interesting. And please, please do, even if you haven't touched AI, go to, use ChatGPT and just put your inventory, put your list in there and be like, what do you see? Because I guarantee it's going to come up with some interesting ideas and concepts that maybe you haven't thought of that will trigger an idea for you. But really the place to start when we're starting over is we have to know what are the raw materials that we're working with. Take stock of that. And by the way, if this is interesting, I did take my document, the big book of me, and I turned it into a actual product called the Big Book of You. You can find it in my Stan store in the link if you're curious, but I've kind of laid out for you what it entails here is you inventory yourself in these different areas, and use your own imagination or use AI to help you pull different pieces together and just be like, okay, this is where I'm starting from. Because once you have that in hand, you can decide like, okay, I have this. If I want to go here, I have this to start with, or I don't. So I need to get that, right? It's going to give you a really good starting point. So I hope that helps if you're starting over. That's what has been really helpful for me in terms of just really practical application, in terms of what do you actually do when you're starting over. All right, cheers.